It was very moving, actually. I mean, the weather helps, I think, but it was very moving. I think the number of people that were there, and I think that they crossed the range of speakers, from the councillor through the mayor, the child that spoke from Farnham. I think it was from the youth theatre. The Maltings, and his speech was just incredible, and he made the real link between this generation, the very much younger generation, the freedom, the liberties that we have, and the sacrifices that were made 100 years ago and continue to be so through warfare, which was remarkable. And the music was beautiful. The combination of the music and the speeches was just beautiful.
I found it extremely moving. I think the organisers should be really proud of what they did for Farnham today. Something that I will always remember. I've got lots of photographs. When the 2-minute silence and the little figures came down, the little paper figures, I don't know who thought of those, but really, really moving. And the music and the singing, it was perfect. And of course the weather played its part, didn't it?
But today's ceremony, I still feel quite choked up about it, actually. Quite emotional, really, especially the little paper people. I thought that was very, very clever and a very, very touching tribute, really. The music, that piece of music that they played was just fabulous, absolutely lovely. So I'm still choked up about it, and it's hours later. And you know, for me, obviously, I wasn't alive at the time, so the war is only something I know about through other people's memories and through events like this.
I did, and it was a wonderful event. I mean, it was the sun shone, and the music was wonderful, and the little paper souls that were floating in the air were just magnificent. Such a historic setting, very emotional. I just loved it. It was so well done, I think, but really, really good. So, a pleasure to have been there.
I think today the flyers that came, the big confetti, and that, I thought they were petals at first, but actually when I looked at them, they were the shape of soldiers in white and pink and red, and that was very powerful as well. So the children were picking them up and playing with them, and actually when you looked at them, you realised they're not leaves. It's not about nature. This is about the people. So yeah, very personal, very poignant, but did a fantastic job, I think, of bridging the generations today.
I thought it was very poignant. I think it's a really important thing to remember anyway, and we always participate in remembrance events. I think it's really important. I thought it was really thought-provoking, actually, and I'm very pleased we brought the children as well. I, for some reason, wasn't aware that the first 2-minute silence was in Farnham. We've lived here 11 years. We've been talking to them this week about it and how important it is, and that they're, part of history, and it was important that they came today. And I'm going to keep the programme for them, and when they can keep that and remember that they were here 100 years after the first one. I was thinking about what it would have been like for people of Farnham 100 years ago, and the fact that they wouldn't have known what was going on, and we are so connected nowadays. And I just thought, imagine, being a mother 100 years ago, and you don't know what's going on, and the worst, you want a letter if it's from your child, but you don't want a letter if it's a letter saying that they've been killed. And that's what happened to my great grandmother. She had 7 children, and she got a letter just saying that Wilfred had been killed first day of the Somme. That was it. I just think the shock of that. I thought, here we are, stood lovely day in 2016, and how lucky we are, really. So that's what I was thinking about.
I'll tell you exactly what went through my mind was to think about all the boys that went off to war who didn't know what they were getting themselves into. And like the man said, they went off singing and laughing and smiling, and they came back very different. Many of them didn't know. They didn't understand the consequences of signing up. And though with the best of intentions, they were signing up for something that they were ill-informed to sign up for. So I thought about all the boys that went because their friend went and came back very changed men or didn't come back at all. And I feel very sad that had to happen. I feel very thankful for those adults who were part of the army, who fought for us, and I might not be here today if it wasn't for the generations before me, and those men that fought and protected our freedom in our country. Who knows what would have happened if, so I was thankful, but I think for me at the moment, being a mother of young children, I was thinking of the children,
I just think of all the armed forces, the people who are dying nowadays, the ones who come home maimed, whose lives will never ever be the same. And I think it's vital that we keep this going and we support it in every way we can.
Oh, usually my uncle who died in the Second World War, my dad and my other uncle who fought in the Second World War, and thinking back to my wife's great uncle, I think it was, who was killed on the Cressy, on a battleship in the First World War, about the second day of the war or something like that. They were torpedoed. They were sent out there as some sort of decoy, and they were found and shipped. So we have the big round war penny to commemorate his death. So it's family people, and I think about the guys in the trenches and just the horrific things they must have been going through. So
I thought it was, excellent actually. I mean, for us and for the kids to just spend a short, amount of time just to think about, the past and today, and also about the future. What does it mean in terms of today's world, and how futures may sort of evolve one way or another. I think particularly for the kids, these days when there are so many things, so many channels for information, and news is so ubiquitous, that actually just trying to centre yourself and think in a little bit more detail about, how you've come to be where you are today, and how that sort of, how our forebears have contributed to that is really important. So I think there has to be continuity. So I would certainly hope that, the method of using that 2 minutes to reflect and just spend some time thinking in a bit more detail than perhaps many of us do about these sorts of things is extremely valuable. So I would hope that it continues, and I see it as being as relevant as it has always been. Yeah.
I hope the 2 minute silence lasts in some way, whether it changes over time. I hope it's still a part of remembrance, because even though it originated from the First World War, I think it represents a lot more now, and I know that some people think negatively about it, but I think it's a positive thing, and it brings people together, and it's just about remembering. And I think some people, such as with Remembrance Day, see like the red poppy as a sign of celebrating war, and I just don't think that that's what it's about at all. I think the 2 minute silence is just about remembering and valuing the sacrifices that people made. So I think people can see it in different ways, but I hope the 2 minute silence does go on in some way.